When you were 7, 6 years old, 5 years old, one of the greatest things to get about the time in October was the Sears Christmas catalog. Oh, you kids that are under 40 wouldn't understand what that is. But the Christmas catalog from Sears, it would come, and you remember, all the junk that we could care less about was in the front, but in the very back was page after page of some of the neatest toys you could imagine. I mean, train sets, car sets, things that you could never imagine. And I can remember so very well of circling those things and trying to leave, how would you say, nudges for my mother of what I wanted for Christmas by laying it open on the counter. And I would come back and that book would be shut and I couldn't find it anymore. So I'm sure that she wasn't even caring. But I was just amazed how much I look forward to receiving something, and something that I really didn't necessarily need, but I had to have. Bickham's Five and Dime was the neatest store in Middletown that you could ever imagine. Ina Bickham and Don Bickham were the owners of the store. It was right on Locust Street. I could walk over there anytime, and you'd walk in, and there was a smell of candy as you first walked in. And right in the front was, Joe, do you remember probably 25 different things of candy? Now, I don't mean candy wrapped. I mean the kind where you had to get a scoop. And you had the white bag, and you'd put it in. And I remember in the morning, she'd have to scoop everything up because they'd all melt together. I remember those orange peels. Oh my gosh. And then that's where I found that candy corn, chocolate candy corn. Never seen it in my life. And malted chocolate balls. Oh my gosh, it was a dream as a 6-year-old to walk in the Bickham's Five and Dine, and Mrs. Bickham was so nice, and it was just amazing to smell it. But back in the very back was the toy department. Now you can imagine what a toy department in a little town of Middletown was. They never really had anything. Oh, they had toys, and they had sometimes models, and once in a while they would have something that's pretty neat. But I'd always walk back, and sometimes I'd stay there for hours just looking at the toys. It was so neat because I'm 6 years old, and I could walk across the street, and Mom knew where I was. And one day, I came across an Alice Chandler's orange tractor. Orange. It didn't matter if it was a tractor or not. I could care less. It was orange. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I had to have it. I had to have it. And I can remember going home and talking with my dad and talking with my mom. Well, how much is it? $15. Look, would you like to buy that for me, Dad? You have to earn it. Okay. So I remember $15. How could I do that? I had an allowance which was nothing, but I had to go out. I couldn't really get a job. Couldn't mow yards at that time. So you know what I did? I walked the railroad tracks because the railroad tracks were still operational in Middletown at that time. And I hunted for bottles. And back then you could take the bottles and get deposits on them. Some of you may remember that. And I remember, Judy, coming home with liquor bottles. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what Crown Royal was, but it was out there on the railroad track. Probably not Crown Royal, but Southern Comfort. Captain Morgan. It's a shame that I know all these names. And I remember going and cleaning all these bottles out, and you'd look, and John, some of I can remember the colored bottles you got more money for. The clear bottles you didn't necessarily get. I'm talking, Ronnie, I'm talking maybe 2-3 cents. Some of them you get a whole nickel. And you go and you take those in and you would give them and they would give you money back. It was the neatest thing. And Abby, it's really kind of sad. I guess my little town was a drunken little town because every week I would go along the railroad tracks and I had those liquor bottles and there'd be new ones there. I didn't ask my mom where they came from. I just thought they were dropped off the train as the hobos. There must have been a lot of hobos in Middletown coming through. Anyway, I got to the point where I had $15. You know how long that took? You know how many liquor bottles that was? Do you know how many pop bottles that was? And these were real bottles. Oh my gosh. And I worked months and months and I got that $15. It was awesome. And I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I got the money. Son, that's wonderful. You can buy it. Go check with your mother. Mom, I've got the $15. I've earned it. That's wonderful. How much of that are you going to give to Jesus? Well, I'll just tell you, Andy. Why? I remember this conversation. Why do I have to give it to Jesus? He didn't pick them up. I have worked for months to get these bottles, and I got to give some of that money to Jesus? This was a learning experience, Vicki. This was just something my mom was trying to teach me, okay? I said, well, I don't get it. Why do I have to give any of this to Jesus? She says, because all of it's his. You're just allowed to keep a certain point of it, but you got to give 10% of it back. And I'm not good with math. 10% seemed like half. Okay? So it's $15. So how much is that? 10%. $1.50. So she said, you need to leave $1.50 out. Then you can get it. And so I reasoned, Mother, if I leave $1.50 out, I don't have the 15 to go and get it. Then you got to raise another 15. Then I got to give 10% of it to Jesus? This doesn't seem right. And I can remember being angry. This whole idea, all I wanted was that tractor, and I wanted it more than anything. And I just got ticked off. I remember that so very well. She said to me, you must be able to give back to Jesus because the blessings that you have are from God. You need to understand that all he's asking is for a little bit back. They're his anyway. Well, to heck with that. And I just forgot all about it. I just got angry. I can remember this so very well. Got on the things, started to play things. And it was amazing to me how Amy, that didn't necessarily be all that important, but that was something that I wanted at the time. And I worked up to that point, and then it kind of, after I learned I had to give it back to Jesus, and it's not worth it. Christmas morning, my first gift, I opened it up, and it was that tractor. It was that tractor that I wanted so terribly bad, but because I had to give money to Jesus, I didn't necessarily want it anymore. But here it was. And I said, how come I got this now? And I remember her saying this, because Jesus will bless you when you give and you bless him. Because it's all his money anyway. It was the best understanding of what tithing means ever. Now, these wonderful television evangelists that you hear on TV, they use this and they call it the prosperity principle. If you give this, then this. If you, right now, I've got 3 CDs on sale right out here. If you just write in our television ministry, you can have all 3 of them for $50. You can have 4 of them for $55. If you just do it, and God will bless you. That's not the way it works. And for any of you who are just dying to jump on some of these ministry and these understandings of what it means, this prosperity principle, it's not what it means. I'm going to teach you, or I'm going to share with you a parable that is going to help you and help me to understand what it is and how it is through a pandemic that God teaches us how to give and how to love and to realize we, in spite of all of the garbage that we are in, God's still blessing us beyond measure. Go to Matthew, if you will. Matthew 25. Okay, here we go. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his entire wealth to them. To one, he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his own ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more bags. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, but I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness with me. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seeds? Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him, and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever who has given more, they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Sounds like an accounting situation. This was what my mother was trying to teach me. God blesses each one of us differently. God blesses us in a situation in which we have talents, we have abilities. Now, here we're talking about bags of gold, but God blesses us with talents in which we are asked to share them with others. And as you do, we should expect more opportunities to bless others. When you talk about the Dave Ramsey program, Amy, what's that called? Financial Peace University. When you talk about this thing about with David Ramsey, which is a wonderful program, and if you're in any kind of challenge and can't handle your finances, it's something that I truly, truly recommend. But one of the whole ideas of the Dave Ramsey series is not for you necessarily to get out of debt. That's important for us to be able to get out of debt. But it's the idea that you are allowed to grow more so that you can give more away. That you can love other people by being able to share with other people. To be able to grow your understanding of wealth and to be able to share it with others. If we stand by ourselves and do nothing with what God has blessed us with, don't expect the fullness of what His wealth can bring to you. I'm just sharing that with you. Let's just get off of the idea about money, because everybody freaks out over money. What about the idea of you have a gift that God has blessed you with and you're not using it for the kingdom? Don't expect any big hurrahs. Don't expect anybody to be gained from that. Don't expect anything to change in your life unless you go out there and share it. God has blessed me and called me without a shadow of a doubt to be a pastor of this church. And my responsibility is not to do it halfway, to do it to the best of my ability and to find opportunities in which that's one thing that you find out with Pastor Ryan. He drives me nuts. Amen. He has got so many things that he's got on his mind. I just got to take your Ritalin, slow down, because he is so on fire and so excited and wants to do everything. Here's an idea I have. How about this one? Well, wait a minute. I just can't figure this one out. Well, let's go to this. He is so on fire and excited. Everything that he can do. Matter of fact, it's just amazing what he did just a couple of weeks ago. We have this beautiful, beautiful thing that we do that we're able to put this on Facebook. And we were blessed through Ryan and Jill to be able to have that because that was their gift to the church. Unbelievable. And the world would tell you, what are you doing? You got 3 kids. You didn't even have a job except this one at the time. You weren't driving a bus. What are you doing to take money from your tax return and do something like this? Well, God called us to do that, and that's what we're going to do that. And we promised, and that's what we're going to do. Ryan was faithful. I'm not lifting Ryan up, but I'm lifting Ryan up in the idea of he heard what God has called him to do and to do it. That's a big deal. Anybody can write a check, and anybody can say and provide a program. Anybody could provide a concert and come out and say, look what I'm doing. I want you to all see what is being done because of me. Everything that you're doing and everything that you have gotten and everything that you're about is because of Jesus. And nobody cares except Jesus what you do with it. This week, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but this week, starting last week, you know the plight of Jake Blankenbaker. You know that, I guess it's been about 10 years ago, it was right when I came, he was injured in a diving accident. He's paraplegic. Almost quad, but he can still move. But it's just been a really tough time. And you know, Jan has been the one to kind of, I would say, to take care of him in a great, great way. And there's all these kinds of things that you go through that he can't get to his appointments anymore because the van that he had is just absolutely broken down. It's just destroyed. And so Jan said we need to pray because we've got to come up with some money, and I don't have the money to be able to take care of this van. And I am in awe. Once Pastor Brian got a hold of it, once this church got a hold of it, the amount of funds that came in to get this van for Jake. Let me tell you, And you know this as well as I do. And Jake's not an easy one to talk to. Matter of fact, when you sit there and we're very good friends, but boy, it's really difficult. And when you feel that way for 10 years, why wouldn't you feel that way? Boy, sometimes the things that he says, or sometimes the attitude is just, and you would hear this in the world, why in the world would I want to help somebody like that? And yet, the funds have come out of the woodwork. And much of it has been because of this church. And I'm in awe because I talk to people, Joe, talked to a pastor this week. What in the world are your people doing taking care of that situation when you got windows, you got carpet, you got toilets, you got all of this stuff that needs to be done. You've got money that needs to be paid. And I told him, that's nothing. There was a need. And God called us. And the Lord provided. No. Valerie and I would, when she was coming and she'd sit over there, I serve an insane Lord. That's what we wanted to get shirts that said, Jesus is insane. And it's insane to the fact of this is not like the world. Doing things like this is not of the world. I take care of my friends. It's a bigger deal and a Jesus deal when you take care of people that you don't even know, but you know there's a need. You know, people came to this church, Maggie can vouch for this, came to this church to bring $50 because they saw it on Facebook. What's your name? It doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that you know that we want him to have his van. It's crazy, Jay. It's absolutely crazy. And I know when you start talking about money, everybody starts cringing up. In this world, you just think about, I don't have the funds to do this, and I don't have the funds to do this. And I got a new car, I got a car payment, I got to do these kinds of things, and this just, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I know for a fact that the Lord is only asking for that certain amount that is put on your heart. And God always blesses and provides. It's a crazy thing. Let me just say this, Joe. Sunday mornings are my only time to sleep in. It's the only time I can, I work all week and I can't get to church. By the way, you got to wear a mask. You're making us all wear masks, and you got to set apart from people, and it's just not fun. Why would I go to church? I understand. I understand especially when you're vulnerable, like me, and my age group, not to be here. I totally understand that. But to make that the reason that you never came before and use it to make you feel better of not being here. See, that's a different thing. The idea that the Lord has given us everything, and all he's asking is for us to return. That's what he has asked. Wednesday nights, I don't know. There's not very many of you. There's a few. One night we had 17. Well, we can't have church on Sunday nights because that group of people are the elderly, and so Joe and I are going on Facebook. It's live with Joe and Pastor Marty, and it's fun. And we just have a good time back and forth and everything. But it's become something that's really been something to look forward to me. And it was Joe's idea. Joe can't give certain things. Joe can't do certain things. But what he can do is to bless us with talking on Wednesday nights and sharing his love for Jesus on Facebook Live. And people are starting to listen. Well, thank you for that. Here's the thing, I don't want you to expect it, but I know for a fact that the Lord's going to bless that, Joe. Because it's everything that you give. I'm given more than I could ever imagine. The idea of taking your talent, and let's not say your bag of gold, your talent and burying it and being able to give that same very talent back to the master is not what God wants. He is not asking us to go and dig a hole and stick our head in the sand. This crazy church board that I belong to decides that we're going to go forward with these projects pre-pandemic and do these things. And I shake my head and I say, why? Because the Lord's work goes forward. And it doesn't stop just because of a pandemic. I just have to help you to understand this with me, please. Don't get caught up with thinking that that shiny little orange tractor is the most important thing. It may be for a point of your life, but there's something greater waiting for us out there. And I'm just here to tell you that as we continue in our growth spiritually, we continue to see that God is blessing us because people are giving. And let me share this, giving from here. It doesn't necessarily have to be here. That kind of looked funny, didn't it? My wallet is what I was doing. Facebook, I probably will get that cut out, won't I, Ronnie? I want you to all understand, don't bury your bag of gold. Don't bury your Bibles and wait till the pandemic's over. Don't bury your talent. I had an opportunity in the last couple weeks to talk with Amy. We've been kind of talking about some things and sharing with her some things that are going on, and I asked her about a part of leadership in the church sometime down the road. And here's her answer to me, Rusty. Give me some time and let me pray about it. Now some people go, yeah, I can't wait to be seen. Everybody's going to know. Not Amy. Let me pray about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I would have loved to have heard the conversation between her and God between when I hung up and when she called me back. Clear as a bell. It's time. I'm ready. Yes. I've been waiting on that for so long. I'm just in awe of how people in this church continue to do this. Why in the world would you give $10 to a kid whose van is busted, can't get to his doctor's appointments, who has an attitude adjustment problem, but is feeling so down about life and why wouldn't you? And yet you give it because it's the last $10 you have. I have learned this week that many of you have not buried your bag of gold. I've learned that this community has not buried their bag of gold. I have learned this week that as we progress through the challenges of painting and carpet, that we've got to take a deep breath and realize that not everything we think is correct is the way it should be, that it takes prayer. And that there's some things that can wait. We've done that in the church board. Today I want you to leave here thinking about that little orange tractor, will you? Think about, because some of us still stay in that 7-year-old mindset. How do I get to go and do all the things in my life if I've got to give to Jesus? How do I get to do everything that I want to do if I have to come to Sunday school? Or if I have to teach a class? Or I have to come on Sunday mornings? Or I have to listen and watch on Facebook? Pandemics will come and go, but Jesus Christ will be here yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Amen. Yes.
If you are looking for a church, and you've been watching this, the day is going to come in which you will feel safe and that you will feel like you are going to be able to come and to share one-on-one the worship service here at the Yorktown Church. The day is going to come in which we're going to have our elderly folks back, our golden years people be able to come and to share with us, and that time is coming, and they will do that, and it's amazing to me. We need to stay in contact with those who aren't here because of the fear of the virus. But we can never, ever, ever bury our heads and wait till it to be over. The ministries of what Jesus has for us is now. Now. To do what God's called us to do now. I can't imagine where we would be at. That pew thing was the biggest fear of my life in church leadership. Couldn't even be here. I thought surely there's going to be somebody with a 12 gauge waiting for me to come out that door. And there's Andy sending me pictures every little while. Here we are on row 6, Pastor. Here we are. It's completely empty. And you know what? Church went on. Church went on. I can't get over your enthusiasm. I cannot hammer a nail. I couldn't walk around and do what Andy does. I couldn't even fake it. I think I would probably not know how to put on a utility belt. I would embarrass Andy to death. But that's his gift. And he's not putting his head in the sand and saying, we're not going on. We need to stop. I can't. If you're around Andy long enough, you're going to come to see an understanding of, right in the middle of all the negativity and the challenges that his father's facing, he's leading. Be around Maggie just a little bit. All the things that they have gone through and the challenge that they have had and the financial and all the pressures of everything. She didn't hide her head. what can we do to make our daycare better? The members of our church board, not one of them have stuck their head in the sand and buried their bag of gold. Not one of you have said, well, let's wait till this is over, and then we'll figure out where we're at. If we wait till this is over, there won't be a church. God has called us now to move through this. That little orange tractor is still at my house. I wanted to have it here today, but I have a little grandson who found it. And because Thomas played with it, I went to look for it today, and it's gone. I don't care. I could care less. But I'm going to tell him that story about it. But I wanted to share it with you today. Do you have that little orange tractor in your life that you're hanging on to, that you want to have more than anything else in your life? And you have come to a point of being able to have that orange tractor. Have you not come to an understanding that that's God's orange tractor? He's allowing you to have that. And in all honesty, He gave His life for us. The least we can do is to give time, place, finances, and love to Him. It's a victory to me. I listen to all the churches and are going through difficult times, which we're no different. But God is blessing us. And I believe with all my heart we'll have victory in Jesus. Would you stand with me? You cannot help but to leave here knowing that you are in a church that is not standing still. You are in a church in which the excitement level, that's what my sermons do right over here. There are people like Big B who have gone through terrible times with his health, and he's up here singing. There's so many difficulties that we have found ourselves in. When you see Jake, I guarantee you Jake will be in church one Sunday. I can't wait. So he didn't have to say a thing. It was from our hearts that people gave. People who didn't even know him that are lifting up. And here's what I know. It's not what Jake would say that would touch me. It's the way people gave to love him, someone they didn't even know. That's a Jesus thing, is it not? Amen. Hail Jesus, you're my King. Go.